So what do we do with that kind of education? Well, we have to take it upon ourselves to teach ourselves, to move into that arena where we begin to get comfortable with this whole emotional educative process. Now, this was brought home to me recently when I was reading an editorial written by David Brooks. Now, some of you all know David Brooks. If you're a news junkie like I am, he and Mark Shields appear on NewsHour with Jim Lehrer every Friday, and they sit there and they have a civil discourse about the events of the day. Mark Shields ordinarily is someone I identify with because he's a progressive. He's also an old guy. I like old guys that talk progressive. He can talk about the way it was, and Mark Shields gives a beautiful explanation about things in terms of their context. But David Brooks, I also like. And I began to wonder, now, wait a minute. David Brooks is supposed to be giving me an opposite side, but he always gets in my head and my spirit because he's a congenial person. He's a nice guy. And he's saying, look, I think this and I think that. And Mark Shields is nodding his head sometimes, you know. And David Brooks will nod his head at Mark Shields. And it's a civil discourse. It's something that I would like everybody who is engaged in debate to adopt. But then they didn't ask me. So David Brooks has been one of those guys that I just said, well, that's one of my little secrets. I like David Brooks. And I said, okay. But then I read this article, this editorial he wrote, and then it was like, yeah, snap. And that's why I like him. David Brooks was talking about this subject of emotional education. He said that, you know, my emotional education came, the beginning of it, and a part of it came on February 2nd, 1975, when I was listening to a radio station in Philadelphia, and I heard Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. And I thought, wait a minute. Now, this is a political pundit talking about Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. He said, yeah, because Bruce Springsteen, talking to me as a kid growing up in Philadelphia, who was in the suburbs and having a good life, and Bruce Springsteen up there in New Jersey was talking about the dregs of society, the losers, the folks who lived in a small town and they wanted to get out and there's no way. Their lives were kind of like typecast for them. So Bruce Springsteen brought another dimension of life to David Brooks, and he began to understand, and album after album he bought, and then his whole emotional intelligence grew so that he was seeing more than just his little life, that he began to feel much more than his prescripted life. So I read that and I said, yeah, I know what he's talking about. Because I remembered a year earlier in 1974 when I was in Pittsburgh going through graduate school and formal education of seminary and the School of Social Work. And I made a friend who was from New Jersey, went to Rider College. And he was from New Jersey and he told me, man, you got to listen to this guy. And the guy he was talking about was Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. So, you know, I'm going like, well, you know, I'm from Oklahoma, man. You know, I came all the way. You know, I don't know anything about Bruce Springsteen. You know, he said, man, listen to him. So I did. I listened to him. And I heard the big man playing saxophone. And I said, I like this guy. And Bruce Springsteen came to Pittsburgh. Now, this was way before he became the boss. So Bruce Springsteen wasn't playing the big venues. But I went there. My date and I were the only African Americans there, besides the big man. And I know that because I kept looking. But I said, no, I'm going to listen to this because I like what Bruce Springsteen's saying. Bruce Springsteen gave us all, and the band played well. And I remember that, lo, these many years later, because it opened up something to me. It opened up another way of dealing where things just aren't prescripted, but I had another way to say, yeah, okay, there's a beat here. And he talked about the things that I understood growing up in small towns and growing up where high school became the best that life could offer for some folks. and those glory days, you know, will play on. So I listened to that and I heard that, and I too had a brick in my emotional intelligence building. So when I read that with David Brooks, I said, yes, this is why. This guy gets it. He understands that it's not about being Republican or Democrat or wealthy or poor, but it's about if you understand other folks, if you have a connection between your neighbor and yourself, then, of course, you can get the message. So the longing then that we have, has to do with one thing. It has to do with just one thing. A survey of human resource managers in large corporations revealed some startling facts. They said to these HR people, go out and talk to all the folks in your corporations and survey them and find out what is their number one thing that they long for. And it came back overwhelmingly. One thing, appreciation. Appreciation. Just some thank yous. Good job. Something that will let them know, I appreciate you. I recognize who you are. I had the opportunity to meet one wealthy person in my life, and I have said, and I publicly will say to you, if you are wealthy, let's talk. But the one person that I know who is wealthy said to me one time, Gerald, when I give to whatever organization, the one thing that I expect back is a thank you card, a thank you note. And I said, but you know they're grateful. You have fulfilled a need. And she said to me, I know that, but I want to be appreciated by them. I want them to know that. And if they don't send me a thank you card, they do not get any more from me. So I said, whoa, a lesson learned. Appreciation. It doesn't matter if someone is Bill Gates or if someone is Gerald Davis. What we're talking about is being appreciative. We all want it. We all want appreciation. And that's what we're longing for. But where is that coming from? Where is that coming from? You know, if we don't get it at work, when we work really hard and we get our paycheck and that's appreciation enough, you're working. No, it's not. And we go home and the people we love and live with don't really appreciate the little things we do around the house. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you're at work or you're at home, you're going to feel the same way. But you don't want to talk about it because you know what that means, like, oh, that's so petty. You should know. It's not. It is something inside of us that we long for. We long for appreciation. We long for that engaging atmosphere. How about church?